What's up, Colorado Realtors? I'm Scott Peterson. Thank you for joining me for another quarantine COVID edition of Legal Bites. It's been a couple of weeks, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks since my last Legal Bites, and you can see the hair. I got it cut last weekend. If my buddy Monica can put in the pictures, I'll send her. Maybe she'll pop it in right here to show a picture of me getting my hair cut with masks on, of course. And if not, maybe she'll link them at the bottom of this video so you can see it's kind of a silly looking photo of me. Anyhow, so that got accomplished, beard trim, and feeling a lot better. And of course, we're headed into Memorial Day. It is Friday, the 22nd of May, as I sit here today. And yeah, it's been a more sort of flat couple of weeks, and that's why I haven't been updating furiously with changes to executive orders or to county, municipal, local ordinances, local limitations. And it's been a little bit more consistent. The hotline, I've actually been getting some non-COVID related, what I'll call traditional hotline calls, which has been nice and refreshing. Still a healthy dose of COVID calls, but haven't had a whole lot to update because I think most of the state is kind of settling into this now safer at home policy that is coming to an end, actually, at least potentially coming to an end here this coming Tuesday. At least the current CDPHE order, the public health order, is set to end on Tuesday of next week. And so at some point over Monday, Tuesday, maybe into Wednesday, we'll see. I'm sort of expecting Governor Polis to make some decisions and some announcements about, what's next. Is he going to essentially extend the current public health order, carry it out over the course of another 30 days? Is he going to make some modifications? I think if I'm sort of predicting here now, I think what we're going to see are some modifications to that, primarily, however, related to maybe retail, restaurants, rec centers, or fitness facilities, things along those lines. I don't, if I'm going to give a just prediction, and I don't have any specific insight on this, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot in the next couple of weeks related specifically to real estate. And if we think about it, the one area where we're really, at this point, I think the most compromised is in the open house category. And so I don't anticipate that we're going to see a relaxing or an implementation of open houses at any point over the next, I would say, several weeks. And that's just a sort of guesstimate. The challenge, of course, with open houses is contact tracing, making sure that you have everybody's name and information. And if somebody had to go back and trace contacts to track down the spread, that becomes a lot more difficult in an open house environment, as well as just kind of a broker losing people within a home. And so you can put caps on it and do all of those other things, but there's the lack of formality, particularly in relation to an actual scheduled showing, creates problems or concerns, I think, that we're still going to be dealing with over the course of the next several weeks. So I don't look for any changes with regard to an expansion or an allowance for open houses. And honestly, I think if a lot of you are talking to your sellers, as a listing agent particularly, I'm not sure that your sellers are actually going to want to, at this exact point in time, to have people more loosely sort of wandering around the house, potentially touching things and so forth. So anyhow, probably not a lot with regard to real estate next week, but I'll be back to focus on that when we get there. After we've got the governor's order. And then remember, even no matter what the governor does, if any of the counties or local jurisdictions decide that the governor has gone too far in their infinite wisdom, then it's possible that there are some additional limitations. Again, probably not related to real estate, but stay tuned. We'll see what happens next week. So wanted to quickly touch on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is I've had a lot of hotline questions, COVID questions related to the COVID addendum. And so remember, there's two things that are floating around out there that have evolved since the start of this. One, the first thing was the COVID addendum. That's the contract addendum that was promulgated by the Colorado Bar Association back in the end of March, early April, for attachment to a contract to buy and sell. And there's two operative sections there. One is for third parties that aren't able to perform. This is, lenders, appraisers, surveyors, title companies, et cetera. If they're not able to perform because of COVID, then that would potentially extend out the contract dates and deadlines based on what the parties agreed to, the certain number of days that the parties agreed to. And then the second section obviously dealt with the parties. Paragraph number 2 dealt with the parties and their inability to perform based on COVID-related implications. So on the addendum, I think we're sort of getting to a point where I would maybe encourage judicious use of it. In other words, I think by and large, our third-party industry partners, and again, by that I mean lenders and title, surveyors, inspectors, appraisers, all of those good folks, I think most of them have sort of ironed out the kinks in terms of processing, whether it be loans or title work and everything else. And so I don't think we're seeing the same potential for curveballs or delays for our industry partners related to COVID, because they've come up with solutions, and we've gotten clarity through executive orders and seen creativity among title companies and other lenders, everybody else that have been putting things in place that have avoided extensions. And so I'm not sure the significance or relevance in every case at this point with regard to paragraph number 1. And then, of course, paragraph number 2, the parties and their quarantine or inability to perform based on the parties' experiences with COVID, kind of same issues there. And so I've had a lot of questions about it, and I think at this point, as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, you kind of need to analyze the circumstances, the length of the contract time, and maybe this will change again. I mean, people talk about if we're going to have a flare-up in the fall and other things, but at this point, I think at least the transaction process has become relatively well managed by both the parties and their brokers, you guys, their realtors, as well as the third parties and their ability to work through the challenges, the unique challenges that COVID has created. And so as you're considering that, buyer's agent, seller's agent on a new contract, really be at this point considering the necessity of it as it relates to the specifics of your specific transaction, rather than just sort of attaching it to every contract. And that leads me to kind of the hotline calls that I've had specifically related to the addendum, and that has been some issues that have been coming up and questions coming up because I think in some cases the addendum has been attached, and now one party or the other party is sort of trying to utilize the addendum for the purposes that it wasn't intended for. In other words, from the very beginning, that addendum has been focused on a third party or a party to the contract not being able to do something specifically related to or because of COVID, not just because, oh, hey, my lender's moving a little bit more slowly, and they've got to verify another aspect of my income, or other what I would call traditional loan condition kind of concerns. And so now I'm starting to see some of the fallout of the use of that addendum with regard to buyers or sellers that are saying, oh, I can't do this, or we need a little extra time, or we want to invoke the COVID addendum. Well, again, from the very beginning, the COVID addendum has been intended specifically related to COVID, and not just because it's not just a free extension or a free pass because COVID happens to be floating around out there in the ethos. It is because specifically a title company is shut down or can't perform operations because of COVID, or a lender or underwriter isn't capable of underwriting a loan and needs an extension specifically because of COVID, or an appraiser can't perform because of COVID. It's not just a free pass. And so I have been seeing some attempts maybe on use of that. And then we get into the discussion of, good faith, bad faith, and all of that. And remember, there's that good faith clause in the contract that certainly would apply to the use of the COVID addendum and the implementation of some extension, or the request or demand for some extension based on COVID. It's got to be done in good faith, and it's got to be related specifically to COVID. And so be mindful of that as you're using it. And then the other document two documents that have evolved since this have been the advisories the buyer and seller COVID advisories that have been pushed out several weeks ago at this point. And those I would continue using on your transactions engaged. If you're representing a seller, then as a listing broker, have your seller sign the seller advisory. If you're representing a buyer, as a buyer's broker, have your buyer sign the buyer advisory. And those, I think, we might well be using those for many months to come until there is, some resolution or vaccine or other therapeutic solution to the COVID pandemic. So don't give up on those. And I'm not telling you to give up on the addendum at all. I'm just saying that as you're implementing that, it's no longer something that I think is sort of an automatic implementation with every contract, because we're through some of the uncertainty with regard to both the parties' abilities to perform and the third party's abilities to perform. So anyhow, that's all I'm going to give you today. I want to wish everybody a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. This is my favorite weekend. It's a kickoff of summer, and obviously different implications to it this year for everybody. But still, I can just feel an excitement and energy in the air, just because I know everybody's looking forward to getting the summer going, and hopefully next week brings some good news. Specifically for all of us, because I think everybody's really looking forward to getting out and actually being able to dine at a restaurant and support in person our friends and neighbors that are in the restaurant business, and enjoy just that experience of being out and eating. And so hopefully we see some of that, and fingers crossed for everybody. And so I'll be back next week, and after we get the new executive order or whatever we end up getting from the state, and break down that and try and tie in any specific real estate related implications to it for you guys. So in the meantime, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy your families. Stay safe and stay sane. It's getting tough to stay sane, I know, for many of us, but do try and embrace the long holiday weekend. Take care, guys. We'll see you next week on another edition of Legal Bites.